Next, Vermin Supreme. So I have to ask you, what's with the stupid name? You're making a mockery of serious libertarian candidates.
Well, let me say, sir, I disagree with that assessment. Of course, I've been using the moniker Vermin Supreme for over 30 years. It's granted, I did use my original campaign was a spoof. Now, this doesn't count as my opening remarks, does it? This was a question.
Fine.
I'm a little
It does
unclear.
not. Just answer the question, then you get your opening remarks.
Thank you. Yes, of course, my name is Vermin Supreme. I'm a friendly fascist, a tyrant that you can trust, and you should let me run your life. I do know what is best for you. That was indeed the satirical take that gave the context to my name, but using this name has allowed me to develop a character and a universe of iconography that people really enjoy, and that is what I'm bringing to the LP. That is indeed part of my offer. I will segue into my opening remarks. Yes, my name is Vermin Supreme. Yes, I am a meme.
And I want to add that I understand you have brought more people into the party than just about anybody else. So congratulations to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. This campaign has been very successful, more successful than I ever anticipated. Once again, I am a meme. However, I am also a lifetime Libertarian Party member, and I'm seeking the Libertarian Party nomination. I am also a highly respected, internationally recognized political satirist, activist, and performer. For over 30 years, I've been using humor and satire as a successful anti-authoritarian communication strategy to both mock and delegitimize the duopoly. Yes, I do sometimes wear a boot on my head, but the magic of the boot is it has allowed me to amplify my free speech exponentially, communicate with an audience of tens of millions around the globe from across the political spectrum, and earn free media around the flat earth. This method to my madness has given me a level of notoriety and reach that allows me to make this legitimate and credible offer of my services to the LP. Can a serious party risk putting up a perceived joke candidate? I say yes. It's all in the framing. Owning the joke. We must own the joke 100%. Hashtag, we are in on the joke. We are a serious party with serious goals and a platform for America. However, and this is the pivot, the duopoly presidential election spectacle has risen to the level of a joke, and with love and with spite and my running mate Spike, here is Vermin Supreme. I bring both gravitas and levity to this election. There are 3.9 million high school students that graduate in any given year. Give me 2 of those years. That's 8 million kids. Add that to the 17 million college kids. That is a pool of 25 million potential voters. If I can get 1 out of 4 of those kids to vote for me, well, that is 6.5 million people, aka 5%. Now, there is an endless list of subcultures in America, from Comic-Con nerds to roller derby girls to cam girls to cosplayers, kinky sex nerds, crypto nerds, political nerds, Robert's Rule of Order nerds, and many more. And I plan to unite all these factions because they are not factions, they are subcultures, and they are under the umbrella of nerd culture, and they have a natural affinity for my candidacy. There are millions, tens of millions of disillusioned, disaffected, disenfranchised voters that I believe that I can bring into this party using this humor and satire style of campaigning. Can we use humor as a weapon against the duopoly? I believe we can. Can we use satire as a tool for outreach and education and recruitment? I believe that we most certainly can. If you have any question as to my bona fides as an activist against the state and authority for the past 30 years, please watch the documentary, Who is Vermin Supreme? It is available on Vimeo. I would like you to take a look at verminsupreme2020.com, my campaign website, and check out inonthejoke.net, which is my policy page. Also, Disrupt the Vote is a page dedicated to helping down ticket candidates. And so I thank you very much for your consideration.
And Vermin Supreme, similar question. Is there any point in some contagion, maybe something more contagious than this, where the government would be right to use coercion and tell people you must not go out. We will arrest you if you do.
Well, first of all, let it be known that if I were president, I would make COVID against the law. And if you were found in possession of COVID, you would be dealt with harshly. I would also create COVID-free zones because they always work so good with drugs and guns and stuff. But let me say that this particular crisis is truly a test of the libertarian principles of personal responsibility. And it is responsible to protect the community by hand washing, mask wearing, and self-quarantining as needed or necessary. Now, the government may be great at enforcement and coming up to married couples and tell them to get apart or whatever. But when it comes to be prepared and willing and able to respond, they sort of suck. I mean, it was a government fail. And needless to say, a libertarian administration would be paying a lot more attention to preparedness and have willingness to take action based on science and intelligence and act in a timely fashion without the denial and conspiracy mongering. Never let a good crisis go to waste. The state will continue to consolidate and exercise its power anytime it can. And I fully believe that mutual aid and voluntarism and charity, these are the things that are getting us through this crisis. It's not the feds knocking on my door telling me one thing or another. No, it's neighbors and friends checking up on us to make sure that we're okay. Well, once again, I think the thing to keep in mind is the poverty reduction programs run by the government are generally inefficient. I think about like 30% of the money going out is not going out because it's administrative functions. And so, yes, I believe
you would abolish them, keep them.
Pardon?
You would abolish
would I abolish the bureaucrats?
The government welfare program.
Government welfare programs. Well, I would prioritize it, quite frankly. I believe that the corporate welfare programs should be slashed heavily. I don't believe that subsidies for various exploration of fossil fuels need to be taken away. And once we level the playing field by removing all the governmental subsidies to the corporations, and once we start dismantling the foreign wars and start bringing the troops home as much as feasible, I think that will free up a whole lot of budget, I guess you will. And so the priority of caring for the people is a little higher than caring for some of the other functions. But ultimately, I do believe in mutual aid. I do believe in charity, and I do believe in voluntarism. And I do believe in building stronger families and stronger communities and lessening the need for government.
And Vermin, John mentioned the minimum wage. Here's a quote from Joe Biden. A $15 an hour minimum wage is long overdue, but just the start. Even Republicans support a higher minimum wage. How do you answer them? It just sounds just to people.
Well, ultimately it does, but it's like it is one of the many things that is put forth, especially by the government. Minimum wages, they have the unintended consequences of causing inflation. For every dollar that you might get a raise, you're going to be spending that on your increased rent or food. I believe that ultimately employers and employees can certainly negotiate their wages, and the power of the labor market should be able to demand the wages that they require in order to live properly.
Should be, but they say it isn't. It's not a living wage. How can people live on $6 an hour?
That's very difficult. I suppose very frugally, of course. I mean, I believe that we all want to see all Americans be prosperous. I believe, of course, there are many things, many taxes. Well, let's just take the taxes off the top. 1/3 of people's income is going directly to the government to maybe come back to them in some stimulus package down the line. But ultimately, libertarians believe that if we were able to hold on to all that money, that is a big raise right there. In fact, of course, if the property taxes were not such egregious, that could lower rents. It would cause people to be able to afford their mortgages more readily. So there are solutions. and they are basically financial solutions. We definitely want to make things more affordable. We want Americans to be more prosperous in their daily lives.
President Obama said, if you're successful, somebody along the line gave you help, invested in roads and bridges. If you've got a business, you didn't build that. How do you answer that?
Well, ultimately, we all make our own reality, and we all build our own worlds and our own visions. Yes, of course, we often need help, and I believe that the help is available to those who need it or want it. So yes, of course, nobody has built anything by themselves. They have all of humanity and all of history behind them as they proceed forward. And of course, people are always willing and able to seek help. I mean, help needs to be there. I mean, nobody builds anything by themselves. They build it with the other people who are working on that with them. They are working on it with their investors. They're working on it with their employees. They're working on it with their strategists. And so, yeah, I mean, did you build it personally? No, but was it an effort that bore fruition with a whole lot of work and a lot of sweat and a lot of people involved? Yes. So yes and no, I suppose.
Vermin, Joe Biden's platform says we can end gun violence and the Second Amendment is limited. You would reply by saying
that I do not. I personally, of course, I'm a big fan of mind control as opposed to gun control. I believe it's much more effective. And I don't believe that we need such. I believe that there was once upon a time that many, if most Americans had a real familiarity with guns. It was a rite of passage. Everyone in ROTC had them. People understood and respected firearms. Firearms restrictions on their face are indeed inherently racist and were historically used to keep former slaves and people of color from exercising their constitutional rights after slavery ended. Every law that is regulation enacted to restrict a citizen's ownership of firearms is an infringement of the Second Amendment. Restrictions on firearm purchasing, ownership, and usage should not be. All citizens should be allowed to make the decision on their own what tools, what they can own, what their property is. A disarmed population is a population subject to the whims of violent criminals and oppressive regimes. The world that we will build will not be predicated upon such inequality. I believe it's more of an issue of mental health. If firearms are a problem, yeah, we need to provide mental health for those who need it. And maybe yeah, like that. Guns are fun.
And while you're raising thumbs up, so we don't think something's growing out of your head, would you explain the symbolism of the animal behind you?
Oh, well, of course, that is the Gadsden flag, a very famous flag in American history. Traditionally, it has the yellow background, and the snake is a rattlesnake, and the words are "Do not tread on me." It was a very famous flag in the American revolutionary history, and it has been adopted by many people who do believe that is true today as it was then. This particular flag does indeed have the rainbow stripes. It is from the outright Libertarians. I got it when I joined them, and it is certainly showing solidarity with gender and sexual minorities.
And the main animal of the Libertarians is the porcupine, with a similar kind of argument to leave me alone.
It is an animal that does not go on the offense. It usually it only uses its quills for defensive purposes.
Vermin? Lighting
yes,
up a joint, certainly marijuana.
Indeed.
How about crack and heroin, also illegal?
I'm sorry. The Libertarian Party platform supports the right of the individual to consume that which the individual decides the individual wants to, and we also recognize that the individual has responsibilities. We don't like sloppy drunks, but it's your right to be one.
I'm going to dodge that argument by going around the group, starting with Vermin. If you're not the nominee, Who do you wish were the nominee among this group?
Well, naturally, I'm going to be very politic and say that I would support any candidate that the delegates select. Thank you. Easy dodge. Thank you.
And
kids are naturally anti-authoritarian. Kids are naturally nonconformists. They love humor. They look around and ask themselves, why are things the way they are? Kids want to change the world. And that is what kids and libertarians and myself have in common. Now, with some weird twist of fate, I have become the voice of a new generation. And I've been using my platform to spread the word of mutual aid, volunteerism, liberty, charity, love, and empathy. Indeed, these are the only things getting us through this current crisis, as it has always been during any disaster. Our entire society has been disrupted. Let us not go back to the way it was. Let us not let ourselves go back to the way we were. Let us heal. Let us work together. Let us look to the future. Let us make a better world now together. We do not have to go back to the old world. Disruption leads to innovation and change. Innovate now. Change now. Disrupt now. Let us no longer carry the things that do not serve us while we have this unprecedented moment in time. You are the power.